plant are going to be very, very important. We do see more crushing hammers coming in.
And he does manage to succeed on both of them. So there's 2 energy gone from the Mewtwo and Mew GX. But again, with welders in the deck, it's rather easy for Robin to be able to power up his Pokemon quickly. And for Robin, he does have 16 total energy in the deck, 11 fire, 5 psychic.
Wow.
That's a lot of energy for Jimmy to have to go through.
It's very interesting. We see most of the Mewtwo and Mew decks run rainbow energy and a lot of different attackers, but Robin opting for psychic energy instead. So that's going to mean he has a lot fewer attackers than what we're used to seeing, but still quite a few can be used with just fire and psychic.
Yeah, his deck appears to be a little bit more streamlined than what we were seeing yesterday in round number 1. 4 Mewtwo and Mew, 3 Dedenne GX, just for that ability to draw cards very quickly. 1 Dragonite, 1 Espeon and Deoxys, 1 Jirachi, 1 Latios, and 1 Naganadel. And then the Reshiram and Charizard and the Solgaleo that you've seen already. So there's still quite some variety, but not as much variety in typing.
So here we see the Cherish Ball from Robin. He's going to grab that Latios GX. Now you typically only use the Tag Purge attack against Tag Team Pokemon. But here, I think he's just going to get that into his discard pile so he can actually just use an attack that does 120 damage every turn. That way. To worry about things like not being able to use Flare Strike 2 turns in a row. Just a great little attack he can use, which knocks out basically everything in Jimmy's deck. But yeah, this is going to be a race against Jimmy's inevitable crushing hammers. Can Robin rack up enough knockouts before the game gets out of hand?
With that Giant Hearth, Robin's going to have access to energy every single turn, despite Jimmy getting rid of it with the crushing hammers. So we have to assume that Robin wants to take a knockout every single turn. 6 knockouts, he wins the game. Can Jimmy at any point in time prevent a knockout from happening? Can he force Robin to take a turn off, and then can Jimmy capitalize on that?
So you see Robin was debating whether or not to play this Hapu. You can look at your top 6 cards, take 2, discard the rest. And you can see the thought process. This could backfire badly if I have to discard important resources. This is the kind of matchup where if you discard 1 too many cards, you could be in some trouble. But Robin deciding, you know what? I think I want to discard bad cards from my deck more than I'm going to worry about losing out on some resources. And you see him having to choose between an energy card and that Marshadow. And I think that Marshadow is going to be one of the most important cards in this matchup. One of the ways that Jimmy is going to attempt to lock Robin out of the game is with that Power Plant Stadium. It will prevent the Perfection ability from being used, which means Mewtwo and Mew GX basically can't attack anymore. And when you have that Marshadow with the Resetting Hole ability, it lets you discard a Stadium card. And at some point, he can just leave it on his bench in preparation for the Power Plant Reset Stamp combo and leave himself open to still attack with Mewtwo and Mew GX. So it's, you can already tell he may not have played this exact matchup before, but he already knows, he's already developed a game plan against it.
I mean, like you were saying, it is somewhat similar to Zoroark control decks of the past.
All right, this is a big discard. We have the Mars. Draw 2 cards, and your opponent has to discard a random card from their hand, and he hits a Fire Energy. That's not bad.
There is that Power Plant.
Yep, there it is.
Getting rid of the Giant Hearth, limiting Robin's access to energy from deck every turn.
Yes, and I think Robin does have another Giant Hearth in hand already, so he will be able to counter that Power Plant, resume attacking with Mewtwo and Mew GX, and go from here. You can see he's not even bothering to bench another Pokemon here. He's saying, look, clearly your deck is not trying to knock me out. I don't need to bench anything, play into things like Custom Catcher.
Yeah,
you can drag out one of my Pokemon.
Being locked into a Pokemon in the active with no energy on it and being unable to move it, there's no point because this Mewtwo and Mew is never going to be knocked out. It's never going to be damaged.
All right, and you can see Jimmy just kind of biding time here. He's falling behind a lot in prize cards, but he is setting up for a massive turn. You can see there is the reset stamp, shuffling Robin's huge hand back into his deck, forcing him to draw just 3 cards. And I think he's going to try to pair this with something like you can play a reset stamp, you can Mars, force your opponent to discard a card from their already low hands, and then do something like play Articuno GX, which has the Cold Crush GX attack. Discard all of the energy, and that's where you can start to lock your opponent out of the game. He's actually kicking things off with Lieutenant Surge's strategy, and then Mars, so he gets to discard a Hapu. All right. So now Robin just 2 cards in hand.
Recycle energy onto the Oranguru and a Cynthia for 6 fresh cards.
And he is allowed to do that thanks to Lieutenant Surge's strategy. He is now allowed to play 3 supporter cards this turn, so he plays the Mars and then Cynthia.
It is including the Lieutenant Surge's strategy as the first supporter card.
Yes. And you see the Articuno GX and Water Energy in hand. He's setting up for next turn. And he got the Power Plant.
That is very bad for Robin. He didn't bench the Marshadow to be able to use that Resetting Hole ability to get rid of the Power Plant, so now all GX Pokemon with abilities do not have them anymore.
And we may see the master plan beginning to unfold.
And this certainly is a strategy that requires you to be behind, and that can be scary for a lot of players who don't like playing from that position. But Jimmy recognizes, obviously, that he's going to have to get things going. It's going to take some time, and as long as Robin doesn't take his 6th prize, he's still in this.
So Robin trying to debate what to do here. He drew his Marshadow, so he can put it down, use that Resetting Hole ability, and get rid of Power Plant and attack for another knockout here. He's trying to figure out, is this the right turn to do it? Can I take a turn off and then hope to draw Dedenne GX or something like that to refill my hand? He decides, no, let's just put on the pressure. Use that Resetting Hole. Let's knock out Oranguru, go down to 2 prizes, and force Jimmy to have an answer.
Yeah, Jimmy hitting the Hapu with the Mars is quite bad for Robin. He would have liked to have a little bit of draw this turn, a supporter to play it all. But his turn's rather limited, all things considered. Does get to knock out the Oranguru, limit the resource management for the time being. But of course, Recycle Energy going right back into the hand. So Jimmy is not going to be without it.
All right, so we'll see what's next here. We'll see the Recycle Energy go on to the Girafarig. This could also be a clever play against the Mewtwo and Mew GX. If you can send some of those attackers from the discard pile into the Lost Zone, all of a sudden Mewtwo and Mew GX doesn't have anything good to copy. So this could be a way for Jimmy to buy a turn or 2.
Yeah, get rid of the Reshiram and Charizard, send the Latios GX to the Lost Zone, and now you don't even really need that Power Plant active because Perfection doesn't have anything to copy.
He's going to keep cycling through cards, using that Airmail with Pidgeotto, using an Acrobike. And look, he's stockpiling some important cards there. He's got a Crushing Hammer. We see the unusual Chip Ice Axe as well, where you can rearrange the top couple cards of your opponent, or you can look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and then pick one to put on top of their deck. With resource management and Pidgeotto cycling through your deck, eventually you can reach a state where you can keep using the Ice Axe every turn to keep putting bad cards on top of your opponent's deck and eventually lock them out. But
Another heads.
Big Crushing Hammerheads, discarding the Psychic Energy.
That is 3 for 3 for Jimmy.
Yeah, I think he missed 1 earlier, but it's still not bad. And he's trying to figure out which Pokemon do I send to the Lost Zone. He decides a Latios GX and a Reshiram and Charizard GX. And now Robin is left with no good attacker in his discard pile. He only needs to do 50 damage times 2 for weakness to knock this thing out, and he just doesn't have anything to attack with. He's got a mysterious treasure in hand, but I don't know if there's anything he can even search for here. I guess he's going to find out. Oh, we do see Espeon and Deoxys. but he doesn't have any Psychic Energy. And we see Dragonite GX, but that doesn't work. Can't even get it into his discard pile.
You need 5 total energy to be able to attack with that. So not quite there.
Just going to grab another Mewtwo and Mew GX. And you can see the tide beginning to change. Every turn that Robin doesn't attack here, it's just one more opportunity for Jimmy to go, okay, get lost, send more Pokemon to your Lost Zone. And eventually this Mewtwo and Mew GX just won't have anything to attack with. You can see the slow game plan coming together.
It seems like Jimmy was expecting to see decks like this Mewtwo and Mew GX specifically, which want to act with their discard pile in mind. And he's got a beautiful counter strategy going here.
He continues to dig through his deck using those Pidgeotto. Those have been super valuable. And there we do see the Chip Ice Axe. You can look at the top 3 cards of his opponent's deck. They're actually 3 pretty good cards. Dedenne GX, Welder, and Cherish Ball. And he decides to put the Cherish Ball on top. And oh, there's another Power Plant. This game is slowly slipping away from last year's world champion.
Started out very well for Robin, but like I was saying before, it's just about that single turn that Jimmy can get him off of his plan, stop him from taking a knockout, and try to take control of that situation. And he's done exactly that.
So now Robin's got to figure out what he wants to do. He's just going to pass the turn. His hand is pretty much useless at this point. He's got a couple Super Scoop Up, which you can technically play and then immediately lose the game if you flip heads. You got another Mewtwo and Mew GX, which is worthless, and that Cherish Ball, which doesn't really help at all either. And you're going to see this deck's game plan come into fruition finally. Falls down 4 prize cards, but as long as your opponent has a prize card, you have not lost the game, and you can win at any point.
He's going to keep using resource management every single turn. Palpad, Titan, Liza, and Mars back into the deck.
It's amazing. It seems like such a simple strategy, but when you see it in action, it's just like, oh, I think at this point, he's just going to win.
It's one that keeps succeeding, though. Very similar to the Zoroark, Quad Zoroark control deck that we saw at North American International Championships last year that sort of took us by surprise. But when you really think about it, consistency is key, and it makes perfect sense. It's just the consistent ability of players to find that next disruption deck that is very impressive.
It's the devastating Pidgeotto control.
Hey, we were making fun of Pidgey, giving him some flack earlier for not being able to measure up to Mewtwo and Mew, but who's laughing now?
Not Robin.
No, I'm sure he's decidedly not finding this situation to be particularly funny.
And here we see the Lieutenant Surge's strategy into Mars. Going to discard a Mewtwo and Mew GX, nothing important. There aren't really any important cards in Robin's hand, so he doesn't care, but yeah, you'll just see this combo over and over and over. Eventually, Jimmy's just going to whittle down all the cards in Robin's deck. It's going to be a slow, painful process, but eventually he will completely run his opponent out of options and just win the game.
Jimmy's one of the faster players that I've seen.
Yeah, and I think he knows when you're playing this style of deck, you have to play fast, right? The only way you win is when your opponent decks out.
Yeah.
There's not really a way to attack and win with this deck. So you cannot afford to take your time and hem and haw over, I wonder what the right play is. You just need to play fast and hope you're going to get the job done. And that's where practice really comes into play here. This is not a deck you could pick up for the first time and try to win in a tournament setting. You have to play fast. You have to know what you're doing.
It's a deck that has a lot of decision-making, but you need to have so much experience with it that those decisions are easy for you to make.
Yep. See a mysterious treasure for Robin, and he's just going to pass the turn.
Oh, dear. A lot of action from Jimmy. Robin, unfortunately, unable to do just about anything. It looks like Jimmy's almost got him completely locked.
Yep, and you see even starting to attach more energy to his active Pokemon, perhaps starting to use that profound knowledge to get the old 5-hit knockout on Mewtwo and Mew GX.
If he can end this game before Robin decks out, then
may as well.
I mean, might as well.
All right.
Save yourself some time.
It's a super scoop up, which Robin had no intention of playing. And yeah, if you're sitting in Robin's seat, I'm not actually sure what you're supposed to do. He may still think he's got a chance to win this game. You know, he could just think, all right, if I top deck a supporter, I'm good. I can still draw into a counter stadium, get a knockout, go from there. I wonder at what point does he look at this and say, all right, we got to pack this up, move on to another game. And this may be the turning point. We have profound knowledge, 60 damage, and that Mewtwo and Mew GX is now confused. As Robin draws another Cherish Ball. It's not what he needs here.
Just a series of supporterless turns. Obviously, the deck really relying on that welder engine to be able to consistently attach energy and be able to draw through the deck, but
now the double Mars.
Surge's
strategy into 2 Mars.
So strong to be able to consistently use multiple supporters every turn.
And here's where the clamps are going to be put on the Chip Ice Axe. Puts a useless fire energy on top of Robin's deck.
Yeah, and if you take a look at Robin's deck, he does have those 3 Dedenne GX with Dede Changer are sort of acting like supporters, but his actual draw supporter line is quite thin. He has 4 Welders, 3 Hapus, and 3 copies of Tate and Liza.
Yep. And he's going to draw fire energy for the turn. Just going to go ahead, attach, pass.
1 more energy, and he can use the attack of Dragonite GX.
Yeah.
But of course, with Confusion
and Power Plant,
not guaranteed, and Power Plant, he would need to find a counter stadium first.
Yep. So it's really draw a supporter, or you're not going to be attacking anytime soon. Let's see, Jim. Me playing as fast as he can. Pal Pad, shuffle 2 Mars back into the deck. Resource management, Chip Ice Axe.
He has to do so many things every single turn to play his hand ideally, and it does take quite a bit of time. So I'm very impressed by the fact that Jimmy is able to play so cleanly and so quickly.
And we haven't even seen that Articuno GX. That can come out at any point and then discard all the energy off the Mewtwo and Mew GX and pretty much lock this game up.
Another pass from Robin.
A slew of unassuming, colorless Pokemon are slowly taking control of this first round matchup. Pidgeotto or Oranguru, name a more iconic duo.
I'd be interested to see the way that the time played breaks down in this game. Like how much time has Jimmy actually been acting versus how much time is Robin? I think it's very skewed.
I would agree. Yes. I want to see like the stats on like how many cards Jimmy has drawn this game. Hundreds.
Lots and lots. With a 60-card deck, the possibilities are endless.
All right, so the
knowledge.
second profound knowledge. Now Mewtwo is a mere 3 hits away from being knocked out.
Another fire energy.
Yeah, I don't even know if you need to attach. It's not really getting you anywhere.
We do see that Espeon and Deoxys GX in the discard pile now. But still only fire energy available to Robin.
All right, so you see Palpad shuffling in those 2 supporters. You see the Airmail getting the Mars.
Hitting the Mysterious Treasure.
Just a crazy combo.
Palpad bringing back the Mars.
He's thinned his deck out completely at this point, and he's able to just Palpad supporters back in, resource management, pad back in. And, oh, this is interesting. Dedenne GX, Welder, and a reset stamp. Trying to figure out what card to put on top. He almost gave Robin the Welder, which would have been a horrible mistake because Robin has a fire energy in hand. And I think Jimmy even knew about it. He put a fire on top with the Chip Ice Axe. But gives him the Dedenne GX, which does not work under Power Plant. And this is going to be an interesting spot. So he's got 2 shots to discard the Dedenne, and he doesn't get it.
So if Robin is able to pick up a counter stadium here with that giant Harf, he will be able to use Dead Change.
Oh, all right.
Never mind.
So he's going to put an energy on top, and I think that's just going to lock this game up for good. Jimmy's just going to start, I mean, he's going to keep doing the Surge, double Mars, and now Robin's going to be at 0 cards in hand. That's just going to be game over. And now he's even attacking once again with Profound Knowledge. If Jimmy could get rid of his own power plant, he could swoop in with Articuno GX for the win, but he might not even need to do that.
When you can control what your opponent's going to draw every single turn, as well as their hand size, you can ensure that they just will not be able to do anything.
That's right. So we see resource management once again. Robin's going to draw a mysterious treasure, and that is probably going to wrap things up.
Lieutenant Surge and Mars.
It's the fire energy, pal pads him back in, air mails, gets the other Mars, discards his last card. Resource management once again. The cycle continues.
Chip Ice Axe.
Resource management. I've seen Oranguru be such a powerful card in many, many different decks.
I mean, Jimmy really, he only has 3 cards in his deck.
Yeah.
That's all he's working with.
Oh,
right now,
super scoop up heads. Robin successfully concedes.
He successfully loses himself the game. But that was a game that was gone a very long time ago. Jimmy was able to get to every single turn, just having the 3 cards in his deck that he wanted. He was going to Pal Pad back supporters, he could resource management in the Pal Pad, the Lieutenant Surge, the Mars, Chip Ice Axe to control what Robin would draw off the top of his deck. And that was a slow walk to a loss for Robin. And now he's got about 20 minutes on the clock. He would have to pick up 2 wins very, very quickly, which is certainly a deck that's capable of doing that. The lock for Jimmy took, 4 prizes to actually get into place. But it seems like once it was in place, Robin was just completely incapable of preventing it. There was nothing he could do.
Yeah, everything was going well until, that power plant started to stick. That is one of the most effective counters to the Mewtwo and Mew GX deck. That stadium that just basically says you only have 1 attack now, your GX attack, and you can only use that once in a game. So at some point, Mewtwo and Mew just stops being able to attack, and when you pair power plant with reset stamp, mess with your opponent's hand, it becomes even more difficult to start attacking. I think in order to win, Robin's just going to need to kind of do what he did last game, start attacking turn 2, get knockouts every turn, and really hope that Jimmy stumbles, or when Jimmy eventually does play that power plant, reset stamp, that he is able to keep drawing supporter cards and things like a Stadium and a Dedenne GX to keep drawing cards. Some combination of Jimmy missing a step here, or Robin continuing to draw well when the time is right.
Yeah, what went very right for Jimmy that game was the Professor Elms very early on to get those Pidgeotto set up to be able to airmail every single turn. Once he's doing that multiple times per turn, he's thinning his deck by 4 to 6 cards every single turn, and that is what really was allow him to get through all 60 cards and be able to resource management and Pal Pad exactly what he wanted every single turn. So if he's not able to set up the Pidgeotto as quickly this game, then Robin will just have more time. But unfortunately, it's going to come down to Robin hoping that it doesn't happen. There's nothing that he can do other than taking a knockout every single turn to prevent those Pidgeotto from being set up.
Absolutely. So we'll see if our reigning world champion can figure out a way to combat this brand new deck being brought here at the World Championships. The Pidgeotto control deck. We'll see what happens here in game number 2. We have a similar start to what we had in the first game. We reveal Mewtwo and Mew GX and Pidgey.
It's an ideal start for Robin, and Pidgey was an absolute force to be reckoned with in the previous game.
Yep.
We are going to see a welder attaching 2 fire energies and drawing 3 cards right off the bat.
Yeah, excellent start here. Always loved. Start off with a welder and 2 fire energy, gets a 3rd energy down. He's even got Mysterious Treasure if he wants to go search out another Pokemon. This is all Robin can really ask for. He needs to just attack, 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 and hope it works.
Crushing Hammer does succeed, and there goes that Psychic Energy right away.
Yeah, and he needs that to stop happening.
Yeah.
The hammer thing. Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah. It's
not
not
great
cool,
for Robin.
you know?
Kind of gets to you after a while. You're like, keeps bringing the hammer, flipping a lot of heads.
Yep, but here we see another Pidgey. We'll see if he can pull off that Professor Elm's lecture. As you said, that was a huge turn play. It's probably the key to getting this deck up and running. And Jimmy is running pretty much maximum consistency. Pokegear, Acrobike, for Professor Elm's lecture. Pretty much the maximum ways to find Professor Elm's lecture on your first turn. Because when you do pull it off, your setup gets a lot better, but oh boy.
That's a miss for Jimmy. He does not find the Professor Elms to use this turn, so it's just going to be a pair of Pidgey.
This is the kind of thing Robin needs to see. And he's going to grab a Dedenne GX off of this Cherish Ball. And I think he's going to want to get an attacker into the discard pile so he can start taking down these Pidgey before they evolve into Pidgeotto. We'll see what his attacker of choice will be.
Mysterious Treasure, the Dragonite GX into the
GX attack and just win the game.
Going to Dead A change. He's going to try to find that Psychic Energy. He's only playing 5 of them. 1 of them is already in the discard.
This is huge. All right, he's got a Hapu. He can dig through 6 cards. Then he can Dead A change for 6 more cards. He's going to be seeing a lot of cards here. Can he find the crucial Psychic Energy to win this game on the second turn?
This game could be over very fast, and that's exactly what Robin needs to be able to fit a 3rd game in as well.
And this all comes down to a deck building decision as well. There are 2 different Pidgey available to use in the standard format. One has 50 HP, has that collect attack. One has 60 HP, which has pretty much useless attack, and Jimmy opting to play the ones with collect. And this may backfire here. If those both had 60 HP, there would be no danger here, but because they have 50 HP each, this cross-division GX attack could be a game winner.
10 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. 5 and 5 will win Robin the game. If he can get the Espeon and Deoxys into the discard pile and find a single Psychic Energy, Mewtwo and Mew GX will be able to take a double knockout and send this match to game 3.
Oh boy, this is a big sweat. We got one Dead A change for 1 Psychic Energy, and that Crushing Hammer was also huge.
It was very necessary. This game would have just been over had it missed.
All right, here we go. Dead A change for 6 cards. Does he find the Psychic Energy to win the game?
Another Dedenne GX as well. There it is.
He hits it.
Two.
Wow, cross division GX.
Okay.
And turn to win for Robin Schultz.
So Robin does have some insulation against a weaker start from Jimmy. There's no Professor Elm's lecture. Like you just saw there, he has a way to take advantage of that. Which means game number 3 could very dramatically go either way. Obviously, Jimmy is going to be able to go first this time.
Yep. And this is always the risk you take when you play a slow control deck like Jimmy is playing. He dominated the first game. He took a long time to win because he really can't win very quickly. He can't take knockouts. He has to slowly drain his opponent's resources. And when you can set up every game, it's great. You know, you win a long game. Typically, the second game doesn't finish, and then you end up with a win for the round. But when you draw a poor hand at any point in the series, you can't really win the match. You just don't have enough time to complete 2 full games with a deck this slow. So what tends to happen is these decks can end up tying a lot of rounds, which is very unfortunate, but that's kind of the risk you take when you play this kind of a deck. You just understand it.
Well, the hero of the previous game, that Espeon and Deoxys GX, is prized for Robin in game number 3, so we're not going to be seeing a repeat of that very fast win.
And once again, no Professor Elm's lecture start for Jimmy. He's just got a Mew in play.
That bench barrier ability.
Yeah, he needs to find a basic.
Or he could very much just lose this game on the back of Welder, an energy attachment, and a Pokemon in the discard pile for Robin.
Yeah, he does have a power plant out, so it's a little more difficult for that
Mewtwo
have
that giant Hearth or the resetting Whole Marshadow.
But all he's got is a Girafarig. And that's going to be it. So if Robin can pull off a turn 1 attack, start to put on the pressure.
There's that giant Hearth, so Perfection is active, as well as Day2 change.
Okay, we'll probably see him Cherish Ball here for Solgaleo GX. It's the easiest thing he can attack with in his deck. Day2 change it into the discard pile. And just try to put the pressure on. As you said, the Espeon and Deoxys GX is in his prize card, so he won't have access to it right away. Perhaps he could take it out of his prizes if he gets a knockout here.
He could.
That could be huge. You know, if next turn Jimmy goes, put 2 Pidgey down, you can go, oh, knock out 2 Pidgey and really cripple this engine of this deck.
Prizes are generally taken in order. Usually go you like bottom left and go up to the top. And I believe the Espeon and Deoxys was on the bottom. So it would be one of the first prizes taken typically.
We'll find out.
We'll have to see. Yeah, Turbo Strike. Just 2 colorless for 120 damage.
Yeah, he needs to find a Welder. He's going to go for this Day2 change, getting rid of 3 Super Scoop Up. Doesn't really need those. He's going to draw 6 cards. Does he find a Welder? If he does, he has Giant Hearth. Energy.
Oh, that's a lot of energy.
Oh, boy. It sure is. Okay, so he does not find the Welder this turn.
He does get a Hapu.
Jimmy gets to breathe in a sigh of relief. This is honestly probably the difference between a win and a loss here. If Robin is able to get the knockout, get the Espeon and Deoxys out of his prize cards, he can then parlay that into knocking out multiple Pidgey and perhaps prevent Jimmy from ever setting up. But without getting that prize, I think Jimmy's just going to be free to set up. Did you see the Hapu? See if there's anything. I'm not sure if there's anything that can really attack for 1 energy in this deck. Nothing that comes to mind right away.
I don't believe there is.
And he's going to look at which 2 cards to take off his top 6. His hand is just all energy. Just energy and a Giant Hearth to get more energy.
He doesn't want to get rid of the energy. Those are going to be pretty necessary when the Crushing Hammers start to come out.
And that's got to be a disappointing turn for Robin, but for Jimmy, you're probably celebrating.
There you go.
Nothing happened there, and now you can Professor Elm's lecture. The swarm of Pidgey has begun.
The flock is in play. And there was an opportunity there for Robin to sort of do what he did last game, spiral the advantage in his favor, be able to take very fast knockout, but just didn't hit it. It was all riding on that Welder. And now we see Power Plant back in play. Perfection and Day2 change are both inactive now. So I believe there is another Giant Hearth in hand for Robin.
Yep. Hey, look, he drew Welder.
But is it too little too late?
It might be. I'm not sure how strong Jimmy's hand is. I didn't see any Pidgeotto in there, so there's a good chance he might not even get one out next turn. But let's see what Robin decides to do here. He does need to get rid of the Power Plant. Play down that Stadium from his hand so he can attack with the Mewtwo and Mew GX. And we'll probably see him Mysterious Treasure for another Mewtwo and Mew GX. So he can Turbo Strike with Solgaleo GX. Get some energy onto another Mewtwo and Mew GX. Or perhaps something that isn't affected by Power Plant.
Yep, he's just going to go ahead and search out that Latios GX. try to get something going that can attack even if Robin misses on getting that power plant out of play on a future turn.
And oh wow, he actually opts to discard a psychic energy to the Giant Hearth. That's surprising to me. It seems like that's one of his most important resources, to be able to use things like Latios GX's attack. So he really started to struggle in the first game once he ran out of psychic energy. But you can turbo strike them onto the bench, so that does make a lot of sense. I'm used to it just getting fire energy in this deck, so I'm used to only playing rainbow and fire, but hey, you can get any basic energy.
Yeah, and he does have that method of returning them from the discard, so they're not gone permanently.
So power plant is gone. We do see the turbo strike, that perfection ability allowing it to use Solgaleo GX's attack turbo strike, 120 damage. Attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. So now Robin, he did get the Espeon and Deoxys out of his prizes, but is it too late? There's one Pidgeotto. One Pidgeotto in play.
Looks like the next prize he'll be taking is another Giant Hearth as well. So if he can get another knockout, then he will have an answer for the next power plant.
So something we could see, if you get enough energy onto Mewtwo and Mew GX, you can hit the bonus for Espeon and Deoxys GX, which bumps up the number of damage counters from 10 to 20, which means you can knock out 3 Pidgeotto at once. And that may be the game plan Robin is going for. He's now at 5 prize cards. If he can welder, well, he's got Giant Hearth out there already. He can search for a couple fire energy. He can welder, attach the psychic, and I think that's enough to get him to that bonus and just completely wipe out all those Pidgey. That is one way to win.
That's a heck of a way to win. It's a bit bad for the Pidgeys. Yeah. Pidgeotto's having a rough day, but I mean, the fact that Robin has chosen to put that card into his deck to be able to have the ability to knock out several basic Pokemon at one time and sort of escalate the single prize per turn strategy to something that goes much faster is really smart and very necessary in this matchup, to be perfectly honest. It looked like after game number 1, we weren't going to have time for game number 2 even. And it looks like we might see a conclusion to game 3 at this point.
And it's going to be a close finish. We do see Girafarig. He's going to use that Get Lost attack, send Solgaleo GX and a Mewtwo and Mew to the Lost Zone. And this is going to be the turn. Is it possible to use that Espeon and Deoxys GX to get multiple knockouts this turn? There are now 3 Pidgeotto in play for Jimmy, so this is, oh boy, it's a lot of airmail being delivered every turn. You see Robin trying to debate what order to do things in. He's going to send the Espeon and Deoxys to the discard pile. He doesn't want to bench it because it's got a big retreat cost, doesn't want it to be a liability on his bench. But that means he can use the GX attack with Mewtwo and Mew GX. If we can take a look at Espeon and Deoxys GX, that GX attack is probably going to get used this turn, and it's going to be a game changer.
When you hit that energy bonus, instead of spreading 10 damage counters, you get to spread.
You see Robin saying, okay, how much energy do I need with the extra effect here? He's like, okay,
double, triple check.
I believe it's 3 extra energy, and there we have it.
6 exactly. Go ahead and cherish ball.
And this is probably the best way to stop this deck. If you can cut off the airmail, they can't keep cycling through their deck. And it's just, you're going to start attacking, and they're not going to find all those cards they need to keep locking you out of the game. And there we do see it.
That's going to be it.
Triple knockout on those 3 Pidgeotto, 3 prize cards, and putting 2 extra damage counters on that Oranguru for good measure. But Jimmy is going to fight back. We see the reset stamp, forcing Robin to shuffle his hand and draw cards. But unfortunately for Jimmy, he's already used, I think, both of his power plants. They've already been countered. He doesn't have a power plant to combo with his reset stamp. So Robin is still going to be able to attack with his Pokemon here.
Jimmy's
I don't know
hand
if Jimmy
size
can stop Robin from just taking knockouts turn after turn.
It's looking like he's not going to be able to. His hand size is quite small. He's got Mars to try and buy some time, make it so that Robin can't do much, but he doesn't have his own draw supporters. That fire energy is
this is a big
not
crushing
terribly
hammer.
consequential. Can he get rid of the Psychic?
He can. All right. So you're going to get rid of that Psychic energy. Use the Giant Hearth to just discard the Professor Elm's lecture.
And he does actually have the Tate and Liza to be able to draw 5.
Yeah, he's already used Lieutenant Surge's strategy, so he can Mars and Tate and Liza. I think either this turn or the next turn, Jimmy needs to find that Articuno GX and a water energy so he can discard all the energy from his opponent's active Pokemon and hope that it buys him enough time to at least survive this game.
Yeah, this is not going to be a win for Jimmy, but it's the difference between a loss and a draw right now.
All right, so potentially big 5 cards here for Jimmy Pendarvis. I think I saw the Articuno GX, but not a water energy.
There are very few water energy in the deck, but the Articuno is there. You see one of the water energy off of the Pokegear.
Yep, and we see Cynthia for next turn. So next turn, he might have to go for that play. I don't believe Robin can win on his next turn.
3 total water energy in the deck for Jimmy, as well as 1 recycle.
You're gonna see
So
the
bare
chip,
minimum.
the old Chip Ice Axe. 3 not great options.
Yeah, those are all quite useful for Robin. The Psychic energy enables attacks. Dead A Change can find more Psychic energy, and Tate and Liza can do the same.
Yeah, Dedenne, I think, is the last card I would put on top of your opponent's deck in this situation. I think it's got to be the Psychic energy. Yeah, you don't want to give him a fresh hand. He's only got 1 card. And all right. So we could see either a get lost from draft rig, or he could retreat, return the recycle energy to hand, and attach to Oranguru and use resource management this turn. He's trying to figure out, should I get rid of your attacker in the discard pile, or should I manage some of my resources? Looks like he's eyeing up the get lost. And nope, actually going to retreat. The recycle energy comes back to hand, and he's going to resource management 3 cards from his discard pile back into his deck. Needs to get Power Plant and Reset Stamp back in there.
As well as that Chip Ice Axe it looks like he's favoring. No, I'm going to go with Acrobike and 2 copies of Power Plant.
All right, and the clock is ticking. Now under a minute for Robin Schultz. His hand just 2 Psychic energy. He's got to take a look at what attacks he can use here. Not a whole lot, but he can use the Tag Purge with the Latios GX on the bench. This is an interesting situation. So if you knew your opponent was playing Articuno GX, you might actually consider retreating into Latios GX and attacking with that, but it actually can't attack because of its ability preventing it from attacking. So
Yep.
that doesn't work. So you just got to attack and hope that this Mewtwo and Mew GX can go the distance as our timer has hit 0. And we will enter extra turns here.
Well, it is the case that if Jimmy does find Power Plant to get rid of Giant Hearth and shut down abilities of GX Pokemon, then Latios GX will be able to attack.
Is it going to be enough? I think Jimmy needs to go for that Articuno GX play. He needs to find a water energy to discard all the energy from his opponent's Pokemon. And then it would be a big enough Pokemon to withstand an attack from the Latios GX. That's probably the only way he can buy time at this point.
3 total in the deck. I vaguely recall 1 being in prizes, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. I've seen him find it off the Pokegear a couple times.
Yeah. So we know it's there.
All right, here is Articuno GX. Its ability, Legendary Ascent, allows it to swoop in.
This is a very important 6 cards off of Cynthia.
Is it? It's water energy or bust.
If Jimmy can find the water energy, he can discard all energy off of both active Pokemon with Cold Crush GX, which would lock that Mewtwo and Mew GX into the active, preventing Robin from doing much of anything.
6 card, no! Doesn't find it.
He's got Aqua Bike.
Oh boy. Does he have another one? Because no water energy there. Oh, he does find Power Plant. Another way to prevent that Mewtwo and Mew GX from attacking.
Can you use that Pal Pad? Just put both Cynthias back in the deck. Jimmy's not happy with what he has access to right now.
Yeah, and you see the lack of Pidgeotto coming into play with no air. He's struggling hard as he needs. This is down to the wire. Jimmy cannot win the game at this point, but he can stop his opponent from doing so. And he's going to take a look. What Pokemon do you have access to? Is that big Dragonite GX in your discard pile? Do I have to worry about that? Answer is no. There's not really any good attacker. Nothing that can knock out Articuno yet. Big Crushing Hammer flip. And it is heads. And
Jimmy better go buy a lotto ticket because his heads flipping ability is strong.
And I think he makes an excellent play, discarding energy from the Latios GX. He's saying, you know what, this power plant, it needs to stick. So if that's the case, I need to stop that Latios GX from attacking. This is a huge top deck for Robin. He finds a Tate and Liza. He finds a supporter card. All right, if he can draw into... Oh, he's got a tough decision as well. So he's got Mysterious Treasure. He can go find the Marshadow with the Resetting Hole ability and get rid of the power plant. And then if he can find simply Reshiram and Charizard GX, he can Flare Strike and win this game. Take round number 1. He has identified this is his best chance to win this game. Mysterious Treasure for the excellent Marshadow. That Resetting Hole ability is a searchable way to counter a power plant.
Identify that the Reshiram and Charizard is in the deck. If he can find it, he can bench it, and he has the necessary energy for Flare Strike.
This is it. He needs to find Reshiram and Charizard GX or Dragonite GX and a way to discard it. He can also get Naganadel GX and a way to discard it. Any of those big attacks will allow him to take the final knockout and win, but he's got to find something.
5 cards.
Cherish Ball will do it. All right, 5 cards. Does our world champion find what he needs? I think he got it. We have Dedenne GX. He discards the Naganadel GX, draws 6 cards, and now he can copy that attack to 170 damage anywhere, and Robin Schultz takes round number 1. Coming back down the game. Wow. That was amazing to watch.
What an impressive performance. And you can certainly see why Robin Schultz is our reigning Masters Division World Champion, because even after game number 1 went so wrong for him, he was able to really keep his cool and understand his win condition, which in both games was being able to get ahead with that Espeon and Deoxys GX, using that GX attack to be able to take multiple knockouts. A blistering fast game number 2, and then the massive swing of knocking out 3 Pidgeotto, restricting the resources to Jimmy Pendarvis in game number 3, and Robin Schultz takes a very, very convincing round number 1 victory. So congratulations to him. Jimmy's deck is not one that we were necessarily expecting to see, but it's really interesting, and I think against the majority of the field, we'll have a very nice chance of getting him into that top 8 position. But it just didn't work out here in games 2 and 3. It didn't give him enough time to set up, and without access to airmail every single turn, he's so limited in his ability to really curate his deck into being exactly what he wants to be.
Yeah, I think he's going to hope to dodge Espeon and Deoxys GX the rest of the day. That was clearly the MVP of that match. Yeah, what can you say? He knocked out 3 Pidgeotto in 1 attack.
Pretty good.
I think there's probably a couple different decks they're trying to dodge with that control deck. But yeah, I'm sure they probably looked at the Mewtwo Mew GX deck and they're like, this is one we can clearly beat.
Yep.
You can just power plant, reset stamp. Eventually they'll just run out of stuff. I'm not sure if the Espeon and Deoxys was on their radar as a potential tech card in that deck. Typically, we only see it in Malamar decks because you can just charge it up out of nowhere and use the GX attack. But putting it in the Mewtwo and Mew deck, well, that adds another layer to that deck, and it just speaks to how versatile that card is. It can just pick whatever GX it wants in the format and be like, yeah, I'm going to put this in my deck. And then I'll just discard it and use its attack.
Yeah, two very different styles of the Mewtwo and Mew GX that we've seen on stream this weekend.
Yeah.
First round yesterday didn't go terribly well. First round today picks up a win. So we're going to have to see how many other players have chosen to bring this deck on day 2, and if they're able to find success with it, because Robin Schultz is starting off very, very strong. And we do have an interview ready with our reigning world champion on the stage with Anna.
Thanks, guys. Now, how does that feel being introduced as the reigning world champion? Does it put pressure or does it feel good?
It's good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought I would feel more nervous, but now that I'm here, it's
nada más y nada menos
to have some fun.
que accedió a la siguiente
Was last
ronda
match
venciéndolo 2-1.
Yeah, actually,
El americano
I really liked this deck.
estaba empezó perdiendo 1-0, después de no que logró darle vuelta.
Like that for a long time,
Hágalo por un
but didn't really work out,
continuo.
so I was
También lo que pasó con el NX en el arco.
If someone was watching from home, what would you point out to them as
Sí,
one of the
Elisa,
most
que fue
important moments
vital.
in that match for you?
Increíble.
Well, because the Espeon Deoxys GX attack is just basically my one hope in this matchup. Because once they get to
Recuerde que este año
that controlling game
estamos
with
llevando
power plants, I can't really do much anymore.
posiblemente estemos evaluando
I basically need to KO
si
his
tiene buena
Deoxys
cantidad de
Espeon
visitas.
Deoxys. Or like in the second
No
game,
se descarta
just,
que para el
switch his
2020
How do you
se
feel
lo
about the
estemos
strength
llevando,
of
se lo
your deck and
estemos
strategies
llevando
moving forward in the tournament? Are
Latinoamérica,
you feeling pretty
porque
confident?
no para toda
I'm
Venezuela.
not sure. I think my deck is okay.
Que tenemos así.
I'm not incredibly confident in it, but I think it's good. And yeah, but competition is hard,
Mejores
so
jugadores, los
We'll see.
mejores jugadores.
Awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck and hope you have that fun
USC,
that you're looking for.
como
Thank you so
en el
much.
torneo.
Congratulations. And guys, don't go
Bueno,
anywhere. We're
acaba
gonna
de
take a
terminar
quick
el
break,
más.
but we'll be right back with more from the 2019 Pokémon World Championships.
Desconectado, bueno, acaba de terminar. Bueno, acaba de terminar una parte. Vamos a dar el paso al UPC. Es que acaba de terminar. Nos vamos del TGC y nos vamos entonces al UPC. Entonces, cuando tengamos la señal, vamos vamos para allá.
Yeah, Dark Void
Ya
obviously
tenemos
some times, man. Those were some times. Instead of Dark Void, now we see Lovely Kiss on Smeargle, and I think
ahora
Dark Void
pasamos
was
mira, los Pokémon prohibidos para el USC. Mew,
best Pokemon in the restricted format
Celebi,
in 2016.
Jirachi, Deoxys,
Now,
Manaphy,
obviously not
Leon,
able to have its
Darkrai,
Pokemon. Instead,
Shiny,
we actually see Lovely Kiss a
Alcego,
lot of times. Players
Tempeo,
might be
Resol,
wondering why Lovely Kiss, which is an inaccurate move as opposed to
Violeta,
Spore, but of
Genesis,
course Spore can
Gigancy.
affect a lot of Pokemon.
Hay
Like
otro
Pokemon, for
legendario
example, so like
que
you
no
mean
es-
Amoonguss and Ferrothorn? Yep, Amoonguss, Ferrothorn, Cortana, all just some examples.
Dejamos el TGC y ahora nos pasamos
Those aren't
al
exactly like, obviously
UPC
Amoonguss is
ahora.
very common, which is kind of the main
Al
reason Lovely
video
Kiss, but
game.
also safety goggles
Nada más y
potentially.
nada menos.
That was an item that felt like it was a little bit more common earlier on in the format. Either way, with Lovely Kiss, you're pretty much able to hit anything, so you don't have
At
to
the cost
worry
of
about
accuracy, though.
exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a trade-off that's often worth it, especially when you're going
Eso
up
es lo que le
against
gusta a la
Amoonguss,
gente.
because Smeargle is typically used with Xerneas
Sí,
teams.
sí, sí.
Xerneas obviously hates going up against Amoonguss.
Yeah, so
Ahí tenemos
you know, a lot of
el
players
Pokémon
were actually
Tournament.
using Spore earlier on in the season, and then some players decided
Liga
Lovely
Tournament,
Kiss and the
TGC,
ability to
y el otro
put grass-type
TGC.
Pokemon to sleep is just so much better. We'll risk it, and you know, with Smeargle, Moody can always happen too. You might be able to get some accuracy increases to allow those Lovely Kisses to become much more accurate. So,
Mañana serán las
yeah,
finales.
I mean, this is an intense
Hoy se
tournament,
transmite el
and
Swiss
for
Round.
me,
El
my
top
pick
8 y el
is
top
going to be
4. Las
Rayquaza, Kyogre.
cuartos
I
y
think that is going to be
No
semifinales.
way.
No,
No way.
I believe
Not a
that is the
chance.
core. I believe that is the core. That is my smart money here, Aaron. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think so, honestly.
No? You don't
Yeah,
think
I
so?
mean, obviously it won the North American International Championships and won the 2016 World Championships, but I just feel like players have prepared really well for this tournament specifically, and I think Xerneas is the talk of this tournament. I think a lot of the top players and top teams are going to have Xerneas, and I think those Xerneas teams will have better answers against the Rayquaza Kyogre teams. I mean, Wolfglick's team that won the North American and International Championships at Celesteela. I think these teams are just better equipped to deal with the potential steel types that they have to go up against.
I guess I'll allow you to take that away from me.
You know, you might be right. That's just my call.
Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, I think one of Rayquaza or Xerneas is going to win, so Kyogre's paired up with it, then hey.
We'll split it.
We'd be,
yeah,
exactly.
we split it.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. I mean, we are best friends in the whole wide world after all, right, Aaron?
We just really haven't seen too many. I'm actually really interested. I was literally just going to talk about that when you brought it up. We haven't really seen too many Rayquaza Kyogre teams in yesterday's tournament, and looking at what a lot of the top players currently are running, a lot of the favorites for this tournament, I really haven't seen any either. So despite it being such a strong team combination, despite obviously Wolfie piloting it to a victory at the North American International Championships, it feels like players just don't feel as consistent with that.
You have to be careful, too, because whenever a team picks up popularity, like that Rayquaza Kyogre core, you get a lot of people build against it. They'll throw everything that they have if they believe that is going to be the team to beat into their team. And I mean, I saw a Mantine yesterday on Team Preview, man, and that gives a lot of hate towards Kyogre. So a lot of players are building against it. So I totally understand where you're coming from. I know that you respect my opinion, but at the same time, in VGC history, it's always been hard to kind of take this meta-defining team and piloting it to a World Championship title. I mean, Groudon Xerneas was so popular. That Big Six format that we saw was so popular in 2016 that everybody just built against it. Obviously, you have some exceptions, like Ray Rizzo in 2012 took a very meta-game team to the World Championships and was able to win the entire thing undefeated. And of course, in 2015, that chalk core that everybody talked about was able to win out as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how it evolves between the years. I mean, if you look at a lot of the world champions, though, they use Pokemon and strategies that no one else was using. So obviously,
what was your favorite of all those?
Out of all the teams, I mean, I think Sejong Park's team's probably my favorite. Really effective use of Mega Gyarados, which I don't think he was the only Mega Gyarados player in the tournament to begin with. Obviously, Pachirisu was really incredible as well. But there was so much on that team that I thought was very unique. Yeah,
for me, it has to be, I mentioned this yesterday on stream with Scott, but it was Ray Rizzo's 2011 Thundurus and how different it was and how much of an impact it had on future VGC events.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, Thundurus, a speedy Pokemon, in the early stages of 2011, this is a history lesson for all of you, and I'm dating myself right now, but Thundurus was a very fast offensive Pokemon, whereas Ray Rizzo, when he brought it to the World Championships in 2011, gave it a Charty Berry, used a bold Thundurus, a very bulky Thundurus, and from there it just took off, and bulky Thundurus was VGC defining, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just became such a very strong Pokemon later on that it stuck around for years.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what comes out on top because it feels like, for the most part, every team that wins Worlds definitely has some Pokemon that most trainers don't opt to use. So obviously last year, when Paul Ruiz won, a lot of cool things on that team, but I think Gastrodon was one. Definitely a really cool pick that a lot of players weren't expecting at the World Championships. If you go back, to in 2017, Ryota Otsuba had a lot of cool stuff on that team. I mean, a Brick Break Marowak, which actually saw use in the finals to break Alolan Ninetales' Aurora Veil.
With that Brick Break.
Yeah, I mean, that team had a lot. Whimsicott, obviously. Crocodile, I think just
his favorite Pokemon.
Yeah, a lot of cool Pokemon. I think we're strong and had seen some success, but definitely not together. The Whimsicott being really one of the key Pokemon of that team, so that was obviously a very creative team. Wolfglick's team in 2016 with the Hitmontop and that Raichu.
Yeah, that Raichu.
Yeah, I feel like out of all the years, 2015 was maybe the one year where it was just like a relatively standard team that had won. But honestly, I mean, the Cresselia, Heatran, Amoonguss, Landorus, Kangaskhan core, like, yeah, it dominated the World Championships, but most non-Japanese players pretty much completely underestimated it going into that tournament, and it wasn't like it was like the most popular team throughout the entire year. Like, I had seen a fair amount of success. It's quite popular, especially over in Japan, but if you look at like the American and the European tournaments that year, they weren't very centered around a lot of those Kangaskhan teams.
Right.
Like Mega Gardevoir won the U.S. national championships that year.
Right, and a common thing that people see when they see the top cut of the 2015 World Championships is just, you know, the build of 7 of 8 of those teams was, you know, that very common core. But if you go past that, past the top 8, you actually had a lot of diversity in terms of Pokemon decisions. And again, I talked more about this yesterday with Scott. Even if you see the same 6 Pokemon on 2 teams, they could be built completely differently.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that first round, 3 of the same 4
Yeah.
Pokemon were brought, Kangaskhan, Incineroar, and Lunala, but they played out completely differently. Different sets, different ways of how people featured it, and ultimately the way you play around them is going to be very different depending on what your last restricted Pokemon is. So despite 3 of the 4 Pokemon being very similar, the game played out, I think, very uniquely.
Anyways, we are almost ready now to start round 2 here of the Pokemon BGC World Championships here in Washington, D.C. Exciting matchup for y'all to watch back at home. It is going to be between Gabriel Agati versus Zaeyeon Wang, or commonly referred to as Ken. Zaeyeon, yesterday we actually saw him in round 1 facing off against Sejun Park. So, you know, he kind of beat Sejun really handily. And he was one of the first people to move on through day 1, finishing at 7-0 yesterday.
He is an absolute monster. He's undefeated with the team that he's using. I believe it's actually the same team from yesterday, so he's actually 8-0, combining yesterday's record and today's record. I believe he actually just took down really strong opponent in the first round, and he is just on a roll. I mean, I feel like a lot of times we saw this in 2016 too with like Wolfglick playing through day 1, and you normally think, oh yeah, you might be like have some fatigue for playing so long, but often in fact that actually gives you confidence because you can use the momentum that you built up in that first round. And oh man, okay.
Over on Gabriel's side, Gabriel, of course, one of the best players in Latin America right now. I believe this might be Brazil's first representative on stream at the World Championships ever. So here he is running a team of Lunala, Xerneas, Tapu Koko, Incineroar, Kangaskhan, and Ditto. Ken over on the other side using Salamence, Xerneas, Tapu Koko, Groudon, Shedinja, and Incineroar.
Yeah, so I love seeing the tech Pokemon here on both teams. You have all these strong Pokemon that you typically expect to see, and then there's the Ditto, obviously, on Gabriel's end, and then the Shedinja on Zaeyeon's end. So I think Ditto actually could be really quite good here. Obviously, this is Xerneas kind of warm, so both players I most surely expect to see Xerneas. I mean, obviously, the restrictions are going to be brought out here. So for Gabriel's end, the question is, how do you beat Groudon? And I think Tapu Koko, probably not the best answer there. Probably going to want to bring Kangaskhan, especially if the Kangaskhan is running a dark type attack. If it's running that bite, that's actually one of the best ways to deal with Shedinja. So I expect to see Kangaskhan, Xerneas, and Lunala. It's definitely from his end. Love to actually see Ditto as the last one. I think it actually could put in a lot of work, especially if it actually copies Primal Groudon. You know, you have a way to deal against the opposing Groudon. It gives you basically a third restricted Pokemon. So I think that's something we certainly could see in this matchup. And for Zaeyeon's end, Shedinja may be a little bit harder to bring, especially because you're going up against a potential Kangaskhan. But we saw on stream yesterday just how scary it can be, especially under a very strong player with all the mind games of going for, I mean, all the scary moves Shedinja has.
Here we are now, Zaeyeon sending out Tapu Koko and Incineroar on Gabriel's side. Gabriel leading with Lunala and Kangaskhan here, so both players getting ready to make their first moves. Here we go, Aaron. Game 2.
Yeah, so
round 2, sorry.
Once again, the Incineroar against the Lunala and the Kangaskhan sounds like something we saw earlier on. Incineroar definitely loves being in this position. You threaten the Lunala with dark type attacks, you're not going to take any damage from Lunala. Kangaskhan is intimidated now, so low kicks and double edges aren't doing as much damage. Very curious to see how these Tapu Kokos are built. You know, we often see very offensive ones, obviously. American International Championships, one with the Fairy Z move and Protect one in, but obviously we saw Assault Vest in the previous set as well. That's certainly viable. So First big question is,
Llegan
what does Tapu
Uran.
want to do here? Does it have maybe some means to
Tocó
speed control, something like the Electro
jugar
Web?
un rival
Does it
difícil,
have a
Daniel.
big Z move, Electrium Z here into something like Kangaskhan could be very scary. This first turn, both players obviously have fake out pressure, with Gabriel having the advantage with the faster fake out. But Lunala here really won't be able to do very much against Incineroar. Incineroar definitely being